What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and you guys loved yesterday's video where we took the default rankings on ESPN, Sleeper, and Yahoo and compared them against high-stakes ADP, where people are drafting with hundreds of dollars on the line to find the best value in every round of your fantasy draft. Today, we're going to run it back for a part 2 and talk about the worst value in every round of your fantasy draft. As always, if you enjoy this video, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and let's talk about the setup here. Now, I will say, this is a part 2, so if you are a returning viewer and you saw yesterday's video, feel free. There's going to be timestamps. You can skip past this part, but in case if you are just clicking on this video for the first time, here is how we are going to set this up. First of all, when you load into your draft, this is what's going to happen. Your buddies are not going to scroll over to sort by ADP. They're going to draft off of the default ranking, which is a much better representation of how your league is going to draft and why I think home league ADP is kind of useless. Your buddies are just going to draft off of the rankings provided to them already on the site. But the good part is that these are usually soft and easy to exploit, which is what we're going to get to in a second here when we compare high stakes ADP. But just look how crazy this is. Like on ESPN in the draft room, you got to scroll all the way over or this way to get to ADP. There's no way. So all of your buddies are going to draft off of the default rankings. You can see here on Yahoo as well, there's a thing called the expert rank that they're going to be drafting off of. So that's our first setup. Now we have an idea of how your league mates are going to draft. It's just by the preloaded rankings. Now we go over to the NFC, which is a high stakes fantasy football website. It is going to be the RotoWire Online Championship, which is a $350 entry league with $250,000 to first place. It's a tournament. We draft a bunch of these every season. They're not a sponsor of the channel or anything. To me, they just have free public ADP, and to me, that's really valuable because when you have hundreds of dollars on the line that you can filter for the last week, like this is ADP from just the last week, which is really nice. It gives you a fully updated view of how players should be getting drafted, and to me, it passes the sniff test. It is third round reversal, but for ADP, that doesn't really matter because we're just going to do a list of 1 through 200. It doesn't really matter what the order is, but it is 6-point passing touchdown, which to me doesn't really change much. Like Lamar and Allen are still round 3 picks here. It is 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 flex, a kicker, a defense, 10 bench spots. And you can see as well, when I pulled you guys, most of you guys play in full PPR leagues, and most of you guys play in leagues where you can start up to 4 wide receivers. To me, 2 wide receiver, 2 flex leagues, and 3 wide receiver, 1 flex leagues are just very similar. And when we talk about the ADP, again, I think it passes the sniff test, right? Jamar Chase at 101. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown at the 1-2 turn. Derrick Henry in the early second. It's about what a sharp league should look like. So now what we're going to do is put this all into a sheet and find the worst value in every round of your draft. As you can see here, this is a loaded screenshot. This is the 4th round by consensus. And when I say consensus, that is an average of ESPN, Sleeper, and Yahoo's default rankings. On top of consensus, you can see the pick all the way over to the left where the pick 39.3 might not mean a ton to you. So I do have the picks here so you know, okay, Breece Hall goes at the 39.3 in terms of his average across the 3 platforms. Where is that in terms of a draft? About the 403. Then we have the NFC ADP with a little dollar sign so you know that is the high stakes ADP that we are pulling from the last week in the RotoWire Online Championship. Then we have the value across all 4. If you want the consensus value, that's just an average of all 3. The ESPN value, this is just pretty much taking the ranking that you're looking at and finding how much value you're getting or giving up compared to where that player is going in high stakes. So on this screenshot, you can see like Marvin Harrison Jr. is really well priced in your home league, whereas somebody like James Conner isn't. And it's just a good way to kind of gauge where the money is going in high stakes, what players are going to be values in your league versus not valuable and somebody you should be avoiding in your league. Now, I debated putting this behind the paywall, but as you guys know, if you watched yesterday's video, I'm giving all of this out for free. You can find the Google Sheet provided here for 16 rounds deep in the top comment pinned down below. All I ask for giving out plenty of free game here, just to make sure that you guys can win your fantasy leagues as well, is to leave a like on this video. Blow this video all the way up. We flirted with like 10,000 likes on the last one. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and then also I will do a shameless quick plug. Consider subscribing to the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. That'll also be down below in the top comment if you want my top 200 rankings cheat sheet with tiers, targets, fades, all of that good stuff to dominate your draft. And then, of course, every single night make sure you check out the streams. We stream every night from now through week 1 kickoff. Make sure you use promo code Ron on Underdog. We draft a ton of Underdog teams every single night. You can hop in the stream with us and draft with us there. Now, let's move on to the rest of the video where we are going to talk through the worst value pick in every round of your draft. And first up, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown in the first round. He's going off the board as the 110 by consensus. Now, I will say a fat disclaimer on a first round bust or bad value is it's the first round. All of these players are good. All of these players project well. We are splitting hairs. But Amon-Ra St. Brown is going at the 107 on Sleeper in specific. For me, I'm just not drafting him there, and I'm not really drafting him at this 110 price, consensus 9.7, because I have Puka ahead of him, I have Nico Collins ahead, I have Malik Neighbors ahead, and I have Devon Achane ahead. So if I'm drafting Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm doing it at like the 12 spot. So I guess maybe he gets to me on Yahoo, but on ESPN and Sleeper, he's just not going to get there. To me, he's a high floor play. He's going to get to about 18 points per game, but he did have a knee scope in the offseason, which is just a small red flag in terms of injuries. And then you also have a new offensive coordinator for the Lions, so there is some uncertainty there. And I just think he lacks true wide receiver 1 overall upside in fantasy football. But if he gives you 18 to 20 points per game, that's a fine hit. Again, we are nitpicking here. Now, I will say, you guys are going to notice, this is not the setup shirt hat that I wore in the video. This is the next morning, and I'll be honest with you guys, I slept on it. And I wanted to make a couple changes. So this is me kind of filling in for one player here. At first, this first round player was going to be Puka, because you're going to go into the rankings matrix and you're going to see Puka is going at the 201 in high stakes, but he's going at the 107 by consensus, 8th overall ESPN, 8th overall on Sleeper, 9th overall on Yahoo. And he's going to stick out as a bad value. And here's what I'll say. When $350 are on the line, people are going to get squeamish about trusting Matthew Stafford's back. But I am giving you guys my vote of confidence here, where I have Puka as my 108 still. I am not budging. I think that he is somebody where if you guaranteed me 17 games of Matthew Stafford, he would be a top 5 pick, Puka Nacua. I think that he is that good. He is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. He's in a good offense attached to Sean McVay. Really, the only question mark is Matthew Stafford's health. And I am getting more and more optimistic by the day. Yesterday, we had a bunch of positive reports where you can see across the bottom, Matthew Stafford had no limit to the type of throws that he was making in Saturday's workout. Essentially, he had a workout on Saturday. He threw 60 or so passes. Jeff Mueller across the bottom here says, great first step for return. Disc irritation must be calmed down. True test is practice Monday and reassessment after that. Still risk for in-season re-injury, but promising trajectory as of today. Up top says Stafford will participate in individual drills on Monday. So he should be back to practice on Monday. It's Matthew Stafford. I get he's old. I get he got an epidural, which isn't great. Like, that's something they give during pregnancies. But he is one of the toughest quarterbacks of all time. If you guys remember the clip where he dislocates his shoulder and then goes down to the end of the field and plays through it and throws a touchdown, he is just so tough. I know it's narrative, and I know he's getting much older than he was in that clip, but I do just think that Matthew Stafford finds a way to get on the field, play week 1, tough it out throughout the entire season. There is some higher risk with Puka, but I do think that we could look back and Puka looks a lot like Jamar Chase last year, where Jamar Chase was falling in drafts because of the contract holdout. There was a lot of uncertainty. People were getting squeamish. And then he comes out and is the wide receiver 1 overall. It wouldn't shock me at all if that's what happens with Puka. Now, our second round fade here is going to be Kyren Williams. I think maybe this is a little bit to do with Matthew Stafford, but I also just think it's home leagues wanting to take Kyren Williams at the 2-3 turn because he's scored points in the last 2 years, whereas Sharp Leagues over on the NFC is drafting him in the 3rd round. You have to take him at the 2nd round, 11th pick overall on ESPN, 212 over on Yahoo, and for me, I'm just not interested at that price. I would just rather Chase Brown, Bucky Irving. I would even rather Josh Jacobs right in that spot as well. I know he signed the extension, but he's just the 7th highest paid running back. He's in between guys like Kamara, Aaron Jones, James Conner, David Montgomery, Ramondre. Like, it's not this range of running back that it's like these guys are the best running backs in the NFL. He didn't sniff the, JT, Saquon, Christian McCaffrey type of money. And we've gotten reports all offseason that they are going to scale his usage back. This is from the Coach Speak Index. Up top, we do think the way this NFL season is going, the amount of wear and tear that goes into playing running back, that having a committee and a committee with different skill sets only helps us continue being able to run the football like we want to run it. Down below that, you have McVay envisions a little bit more versatility in his 2025 offense, and notes how impressed he was by the variety of personnel groupings and runs in Liam Cohen's 2024 Bucs offense. So I really do think when we talk about Kyren Williams, he has been propped up by volume. Last year, he was second in the league in fumbles, 27th in rush grade, 42nd in yards after contact, 35th in yards per carry, 50th in explosive run rate, 40th in missed tackles first per attempt. Like, he was purely a volume bet, and now we have Jarquez Hunter, now we have Blake Corum in year 2, and we have the coaches saying that they want more of a committee backfield, and it makes sense. The Rams were dead last in explosive run rate last year at 1.8%. Next best was the Chiefs, using Kareem Hunt with 2.7%. There's just no way that they're going to go back to the well and feed Kyren 80% plus of the work and just be happy with a very mid, non-explosive run game. They want big plays from the run game, and that just hasn't been Kyren Williams' MO. I think that they're going to move away from that, and for me, at the 2-3 turn, that's just really rich. Again, give me Bucky, give me Josh Jacobs, even give me like Ladd McConkey in that range. I'm not really considering Kyren until the middle to late third when we start talking about, Breece Hall, Amarian Hampton, Kenneth Walker type players. Now, our third worst value here in the third round, going as the consensus 311, is Terry McLaurin. He, even on a site like the NFC, where we are talking 3 wide receivers, 1 flex, full PPR, he is a late 4th round pick. To pay more than that in your home league, to me, is nuts. He's a 3rd round pick on ESPN, 3rd round on Sleeper. He goes at like the 402 on Yahoo. And to me, I just think here, give me a running back, give me an elite quarterback in the middle to late 3rd, right? Can I get Josh Allen, Lamar? Can Hampton fall there? Can I get Breece Hall, something like that in the 3rd round? We even talked about yesterday, like Chase Brown going at the 305 as well. Like wide receiver for me, especially when you can get Mike Evans in the 4th, Devontae Smith in the 5th, George Pickens in the 5th, Jameson Williams in the 5th. There's so many similar options later on. I think this is where you want to take running back, quarterback, tight end, and kind of go away from wide receiver. When we talk about specifically Terry McLaurin, he had the best quarterback of his career last year, which was nice. But he scored 13 touchdowns despite only being expected for 7.7. So he got super lucky in terms of touchdowns, and all he gave you was the wide receiver 14 in points per game. If a wide receiver scores 13 touchdowns, they should be challenging for the wide receiver 1 overall. So to me, that's just crazy. He already had Jaden Daniels. He already hit big on the touchdowns, and he still didn't give you, like, he wasn't one of the guys you needed to have, right? He still didn't outscore a guy like Brian Thomas or any of the top 12 wide receivers. And for me, that's why I think the 311 is just a really tough price to pay at this point in the season. Again, if you want like a veteran type guy, you can just get Mike Evans in the 4th. Then we can go to the 4th round here. And I'm not drafting a lot of Chuba Hubbard. In high stakes, he's a middle 5th round pick. In your home league, he is at the 408, going pick 42 off the board on ESPN, 40th off the board on Yahoo. And I would just rather in this range go with guys like Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker. Even Amarian Hampton is going to sometimes fall to the 4th round here. And for me, I just have a tough time pulling the trigger on Chuba Hubbard. I get he was pretty solid last year, but the receiving upside really worries me here, where he only had 43 catches last year with a brutal 0.5 yards per out run. Now, you might say, why do you care about yards per out run as a running back? This is from the late round draft guide. Make sure you check out JJ Zacharyason's stuff. His draft guide is amazing every single year, but he did a really good study on previous year yards per out run for running backs and their hit rates in the middle rounds. Remember, Chuba Hubbard had a 0.5 yards per out run, so he falls in the top bucket of this list when you talk about hit rates by previous year's yards per out run. Brutal range there in terms of where he falls in yards per out run. At 0.5 yards per out run, you're talking, again, red across the board, low hit rates, just super tough in terms of what those running backs going to do the next year. Like, essentially the idea is that if you're inefficient as a pass catcher in terms of running back, the next year your receiving volume is going to get lowered. Now they bring in Rico Dowdle, who split number 1 team reps in their first preseason game. Now you can take that for what it is. They also bring in Trevor Etienne, who's a really good receiving back as well. So I just think if he's going to get squeezed for the receiving game, I just don't know how he really crushes in the 4th round. I would just rather the other running backs in this range. Then we have the 5th round here with Joe Mixon. He's the consensus 509, and it's again one of these things where these consensus rankings are really slow to update here. I mean, in high stakes, he's going at pick 89 right now. In your home league, he's going at pick 58. That is a 30-pick difference across the board. The only platform that is really updated for that is Yahoo, and even then, Yahoo is still 16 picks off of where Mixon is going in high-stakes leagues, and here's why. This is from, I believe, Jeff Mueller over on 4for4. Joe Mixon has a right foot and ankle injury. Primary concern involves his right foot, which he had injured in the past, a Liz Frank sprain in 2020, high ankle sprain in week 2, and then a re-injury of the right ankle in December. Apparently, in the spring, he was in a walking boot, and now he's on the NFI instead of the PUP, which means that he probably re-injured his ankle not on the football field or at the facility, which is another issue, and it's just really tough. Like, he is not with the team, right? Or no, he's with the team, but he's not practicing is what I'm saying. Like, he's not playing in these preseason games. He's not on the field. He has a really high re-injury rate as well with this right ankle, foot that has just been an issue for him over his entire career. So when we talk about that, on top of that, the Texans have a bottom 3 offensive line unit, and you can just take RJ Harvey or Trevion Henderson in the same round or the 6th round by default rankings. For me, I would just rather take the rookie upside with those players. Then we get to the 6th round. And let's talk about TJ Hawkinson and Baker Mayfield, where first with Baker Mayfield, he is going off the board as the 6'11". In NFC ADP, he's going off the board as the 93.9 pick. You are drafting him 2 rounds ahead of where he's going in high stakes in your home league. That is brutal, and here's why. And this is actually something I've been wanting to talk about because people come into my chat all the time, and it's like a running bit at this point. People are like, dude, draft Baker Mayfield. You got to get your quarterback here. And here's my philosophy. If I miss out on the top dogs, right? If I miss out on Lamar, Allen, Hurts, Jaden Daniels, and then I don't mind, Burrow, Mahomes, if I miss out on those guys, I'm punting it way off. When we look at the projections here, so Rich Rebar over at Sharp Football Analysis, Mike Clay over at ESPN, I averaged their point per game projections together. Here's what you get. Baker falls in this range of like 16 to 17 points per game with guys like Dak Prescott, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Drake May, Trevor Lawrence, JJ McCarthy, Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud, Tua. You're getting decimals better than somebody like CJ Stroud, JJ McCarthy, Trevor Lawrence you can get in round 10, 11, 12, 13. Like, at this point in the draft, just wait on quarterback. There is no reason to take Baker Mayfield in the 6th round, when even a guy like Dak Prescott, who's projected to outscore him here, is going in the 9th round. Drake May in the 10th round. Again, like Trevor Lawrence is a guy you can get in the 13th round. So for me, I think 6th round Baker Mayfield, when there's a lot of really good players still on the board here, right? We're talking RJ Harvey, Trevion Henderson, Tedero McMillan, Travis Hunter, just a bunch of guys that are great values in this range. I think taking a quarterback here when it's not Mahomes is just not a good look. Then we have Hawkinson, very similar deal here, where Hawkinson just doesn't really project much better than these other tight ends. So you are paying a round of premium on Hawkinson when you can just get Kelsey, Andrews, Ingram, and Njoku a round or 2 later. So I'm just not a big fan of paying up for TJ Hawkinson, and I also don't even mind just completely punting off the position and going to Dallas Goedert, who's only projected for what? 0.65 points per game less than TJ Hawkinson. You get Goddard, you pair Goddard with like a Tyler Warren or a Colston Loveland, and I think that that's a much better way to go than taking Hawkinson in the 6th round. All right, I'm filling in for one more here because this was supposed to be Tony Pollard, and then Tyjae Spears got hurt last night, so he's actually a fine pick in the 7th round. So we're going to talk about Chris Godwin. Now, at first glance, he doesn't look like a massive value, right? He's going off the board as the 704 in your home league, and he's really only like a 2-pick value loss in terms of consensus versus high-stakes ADP. But here's what I'm going to say. I just think that there's a lot of better wide receiver values going around him. If we sort by high-stakes ADP, you can get Rome Odunze, Jerry Jeudy, Jacoby Myers, and Stephon Diggs all in the 7th round. They all go ahead of him in high stakes. And then I would even pull up guys like Emeka Egbuka, Ricky Pearsall, and Deebo Samuel, and even Matthew Golden into like that 7th, 8th round area ahead of Chris Godwin, where he is now dealing with a dislocated ankle that he suffered last season. We just got a quote from their GM, Jason Licht, here saying we've still got ways to go before knowing if Chris Godwin can play week 1. So his status is fully up in the air for week 1. I think Emeka Egbuka is going to be a real problem for Chris Godwin once he returns. So for me, he's just not somebody I'm drafting a lot of, especially in redraft managed leagues where I just don't want to have to wait for an injury recovery earlier in the season. Like I think that he really should be starting to move back towards like Brandon Ayuk in the pick 100s area. So for me, in the 7th round, I'm all good on Chris Godwin in your home league. Then in the 8th round, we have Cam Scatabo. Now, I do want to make a point that a lot of these players moving forward are going to be running backs because we want to make sure we are getting running backs early. And then drafting wide receivers in this round. If you guys remember yesterday, Deebo Samuel goes in the 8th round. Ricky Pearsall goes in the 8th round. Emeka Egbuka is available around here. Jaden Reed, Josh Downs. Like, these are guys that I want to be scooping up a ton of. But this is actually different than what I've done in the past, where usually this is where I want to start hammering the running back profiles. But I think this year, with how late running backs are going in your home league, I'd rather take the running backs early, right? Whether that's like round 1, 2, 3. If you can get a great value on like Brees or Trevion Henderson or Marion Hampton, I want my running backs out of the way so I get to round 8 and I'm not taking like Jordan Mason or Cam Scatterbo. Instead, I'm taking, again, these breakout wide receiver upside picks in this range. So if you want to make sure you're doing that, check out patreon.com/Ron Stewart. I have all my rankings, my cheat sheet, all of that good stuff is on there, where I have it set up in a way where you are drafting the high upside running backs early, and then you are hammering wide receivers through your flex in this round 7+ area, because you don't want to be drafting 8th round Cam Scatterbo. I like Cam Scatterbo, but I think that there's also he was so popular at Arizona State that I think that he's kind of just getting pushed up for his name brand at this point. But it's really tough. He is somebody where we're getting quotes from Jordan Renan here. It's 100% Tyrone Tracy. Scatterbo hadn't even received a lot of first-team reps when he was healthy. Don't think there's really any competition, and he's not healthy now. Tracy is going to get the majority of carries. So Scatterbo is behind schedule. He's got some kind of hamstring injury. He didn't play in today's preseason game. He's somebody I'm not taking until the 10th round. So 8th round of a home league for Scatterbo, to me, is just way too rich. Then we have, in the 9th round, Ramondre Stevenson and Justin Herbert. Ramondre is just a guy that I guess he's getting pushed up because he's a familiar face, but it seems like this is going to be Trevion Henderson's backfield, and Ramondre is really more of like a luxury handcuff that you're paying up for. In the 9th round, it's just not all that interesting. Again, this is where you can draft guys like Josh Downs, Jaden Reed, Emeka Egbuka. There's a lot of wide receiver value in this range, so I'm just passing on a guy like Ramondre when I don't know that he offers much more than most handcuffs you can get later on. And then we also have Justin Herbert here, where Herbert is somebody where I feel like they're not really factoring in the Rashawn Slater stuff. It sucks. Rashawn Slater out for the year. And when we look at the 159 plays from last season, Rich Rebar found without Rashawn Slater, they were 27th in yards per play, 29th in success rate, 32nd in yards per carry, 32nd in rate of 10+ yard plays. Like, it's just a really big damper on this offense. And again, when we look at the projections here, Justin Herbert is projected for less points than guys like Drake May and Trevor Lawrence, who are getting drafted later than him in your home league. So I hate to say it, but Justin Herbert is a pretty rough pick there as well. Then we get to our 10th round pick, Quinshon Judkins. These sites have definitely adjusted for the Quinshon Judkins stuff, where he still has not signed his rookie contract. He has all kinds of off-the-field stuff going on. ESPN and Yahoo has caught up, but Sleeper still has him at pick 71. He's somebody that I'm just not really drafting at all. And then we have Dylan Sampson, who to me is a much better pick 2 rounds later, where you're getting him at a 16.9 pick value in your home league. And then also, if Judkins doesn't play the entire year, which is very much on the table, or even like a 6-game stretch, Dylan Sampson's a very fun rookie that could come into this role on the Browns and be really good out the gate. So he's one of these perfect kind of like running back dart throws in round 10+, Dylan Sampson. Now, before we wrap up this video, let me show you guys this. All right, so the elephant in the room is that today is August 9th. By the time we get to, August 15th, August 20th, August 25th, this video is going to become outdated. I have the Google Sheet. You guys are going to use it, but eventually these sites are going to update their platform's default rankings, and the sheet is not going to be usable anymore. So I am working with a fan right now to build out this website. It's almost done, and when it is done, I will link it down below in the comments section as well with the Google Sheet, so that when my sheet becomes outdated, you have this site to use. It is almost ready, and as you guys can see, it does everything that we've already kind of looked at with the sheet, with consensus rankings, the NFC high stakes rankings, Sleeper, ESPN, Yahoo, CBS. You have an option, it's even going to include CBS, which we haven't done for this video yet. On top of that, you can export it to CSV to make your own sheet. And it's just going to be the same thing where you can see, here's the values, the best values, the worst values. And I think it's going to be a really good tool for you guys to use here as the season gets going. Again, all I ask, this site will be for free. Everything here mentioned will be for free in terms of the Google Sheet. You can find that down below, pinned at the top of the comments section. All I ask is that if you enjoyed this, if it's going to help you win your league, leave a like, blow the video up, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And remember to check out patreon.com/Ron Stewart, where you can find my rankings to also help you out in your home league. But if you can support there, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see y'all in the next one.
Stones, like this froze. I used to